So welcome to the Regional Trans Podcast Series 2. This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Dja Dja Wurrung people, and I pay my deepest respects to their elders past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded, and we acknowledge that First Nations, sister girls, brother boys, trans and gender diverse people have always been a part of these lands, stories and communities. My name is Zara Jones, and today we're joining you from Thorn Harbour Country in Bendigo, where trans and gender diverse people from across regional Victoria have come together for a day of connection, storytelling and shared learning. In this series, every episode is shaped by the participants themselves, their insights, their questions and their lived experiences. Our aim is to amplify regional voices, celebrate our resilience and build a deeper understanding of what it means to be trans in rural and regional communities. We'll be diving into personal stories, community wisdom, moments of vulnerability and moments of joy. And we invite you to listen with curiosity, care, and with an interest in growing a deeper awareness of the trans lived experience, recognising that people's experiences are diverse, complex, and valid. And the Regional Trans Podcast Series 2 has been supported through Victoria's Pride, a partnership between the Victorian Government and Midsummer. So let's begin. Episode 1 is Joy, Creativity and Community Strength, focusing on trans joy, art, music, culture and community-led initiatives. So let's start by having a discussion about what you think when you hear the word trans joy. What moments or experiences come to mind for you personally? Abby, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. It's actually weird because I don't hang around with a lot of trans folks, or at least I didn't until recently. And then I started a new job in a brand new office, and there's like 120 people in it. Guess how many people are trans in that office?
Wow, normally a percentage would be pretty low.
Yeah, keep going. It's about 7 in 120.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And it's growing. It's a very, very inclusive space. It is tech, but like it's very interesting to see that just how many people are trans in that environment, just because that's the culture that has been developed there. And it's just like, I remember walking in on my first day going, I don't know anybody here. I have not met anybody here. Walking up and then being told, oh yeah, you're not the only trans person here. Let's have a conversation with one of the people who's been here the longest. So I sat down with them and they were like, oh yeah, you're definitely not alone. There's way more people than you think here. And I'm like, oh, and yeah, by my count, it's about 7 currently. Wow. Not all of them are out, but it's a very interesting experience. And I really do enjoy seeing that I'm not alone in that office. I don't have to be the only trans person anymore. I can have other people that I can talk to and go, oh yeah, have you seen this thing that came up in the news? And let's have a good conversation about that, and actually being able to bounce thoughts and have that deep conversation about something that does affect you personally. And it's so helpful to not have to be able to have that conversation and not feel so alone in the workplace. So that was, for me, that's one of the most joyful things for me right now, is that I don't have to be alone. I can have a conversation and I can have shared experiences with people about incredible things that we do get to experience. Heck, I don't know if people saw this week, and this will date the podcast a bit, but the announcement came out just recently that changing your birth certificate in Victoria is now free.
Yes. Yay.
If you're changing your gender marker, as long as you do your gender marker as part of the transaction, if you do your name as well, you can get it done for free, which is phenomenal to see, because that is a very expensive process. And for so many people, it can be too expensive to warrant but it's so good.
And what a beautiful experience that you can then, like when these news comes out, that you can go to work and actually celebrate that with people. It's kind of like, I guess for the people listening, they might liken it to when your football team wins or something, and there's other people at work that could celebrate that with you. And so many times that we are the only trans person in the workplace, and so we do have to celebrate these things quite solemnly on our own. So that's a beautiful experience. I love that.
Because you can share the news and you can still feel like people don't quite understand why it's so important to you. But then you're sitting down with a couple of trans folks and it's like, oh, that's so good. I actually still need to update my gender marker on my birth certificate because I just never got around to it. I might as well get that done now because it's free. So loved that for them.
Yeah, or there's the other people like me that go, oh, man, I paid for mine. What?
I was in that boat.
Yeah. How about our other Sammy? Yeah.
Hi. I think for me, trans joy is every day that I get to sort of wake up and be myself and get to have a place and a space to express myself. Like I just recently moved out on my own for the first time, and to have like a place where I get to be so creatively free. And I think that's where I can be the most creative, is in my own sort of space, surrounded by the things that I love, that make me happy and that I feel sort of seen and represented through, has been like really amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think everything in everyone's bathroom should be pink, like no matter the gender. Yeah.
Yeah. Axel, what about your thoughts?
Trans joy for me is like, there's so many ways to describe it because I'm just that queer. If I had to like put it to one thing though, it's like me being non-binary. I don't see the thing society marks as gendered. So I'm just like, oh, you think a dress is gendered? That's a jacket. What do you mean? Tiny things like that have like rewired in my brain almost because society expects us to go like, oh, it's a dress, female. But no, I'm just like tiny things like that I'm appreciating of. It's all like a lot of internal work for me because the external, it's still trying to get the program running.
Yeah. I think when it comes to clothing and what you're saying there about when you can recognize that this is just clothing, and I absolutely get a lot of joy when I meet somebody else who is like, yeah, that's just a piece of clothing.
It's fabric. What are you talking about?
and then you can celebrate that together.
Yeah. It's just fun to me. It's so much fun. I'm just like, oh, I'm wearing feminine clothing? No, it's fabric. I'm wearing the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Freedom.
Yeah.
And I think you look better too. You get a lot of more unique pieces that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can have such a broader diversity in your wardrobe and how you can put pieces together.
Mix and match, man. Super fun.
Yeah.
I have a story of like when I think of trans joy. I thought about a few weeks after getting my top surgery. I got it in January of this year, so it's almost a year of top surgery. It's awesome because I think the representation of getting top surgery is you take the bandage off and then you start crying. I didn't have that moment. When I saw my chest for the first time, I just went, yep, that looks correct. The pure moment when like I really feel it was when I put on a white tank for the first time. That's something I love this shirt. I just never wear it because if you have a binder on and if you wear a white shirt, you can see the binder and it just doesn't look So the first time I put that on, I look at myself in the mirror and I really didn't expect to have such a big reaction because I thought I didn't have any reaction when I see it for the first time, but something about that and I just start crying. It's like, it's that sense of, oh, I can finally see myself for the first time. And and I'm wearing black now, but I try to wear color now. And I think that's also, it's a joy now, but it is a little bit sad to look back and like, man, all of these colors that I've been missing out, now I get to experience that. All of the hugs I've been missing out as well. Yeah, so that's, kind of making up for lost time.
I can totally relate to that experience after surgery too. And in that moment, I sort of put this pressure on myself that I would also feel this like euphoria when I saw myself after having surgery. But I feel like there was so much going on at that time, and it was such a big amount of energy leading up that when I saw myself, it did just feel normal. This just felt right for me.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't this huge thing. But what I have noticed more recently is that I found this trans joy being not so much the affirming and over feminizing that I used to do. It's this freedom in that actually I don't have to think about gender as much anymore. I can just be me.
Yeah.
And I found that there's just this peace and this freedom in that now that I've ticked a few of the boxes that were important to me, and I see myself more authentically, I'm just so much more relaxed about who I am and how I present myself. I don't have to overthink it all.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you were saying as well. It's like something inside you kind of shifts, and now it's like, oh, it's just clothes. And now I get to
Yeah.
wear all of these things that perhaps previously I was keeping myself from experiencing.
Yeah, even the doing things. I've actually just changed career to a career that I had previously thought was a bit too masculine. I'm not allowed to be in that space. And although actually it's a whole bigger discussion because also careers shouldn't be gendered anyway either.
They shouldn't.
but to me, when I was growing up, that's how it felt. And so there was all these reasons why I stepped back from it. Whereas now I feel that actually, as this person that I've become, I can do anything and I can be anyone. And I know what my gender is and I feel really comfortable in this. So, yeah, I don't have to overthink it and I don't have to guard myself from it. Yeah. Are there anything that other people have noticed along the way that you are more free to do? You were talking, Sammy, about now that you've got your own place, that there's these things that you're free to do. Tell us a little bit more about that. What sort of activities do you like?
Well, I like myself, first of all. I like anything that's all about me. I like to, I'm animating a cartoon about myself and my experience as a transgender pop star. And I think before I just sort of had my bedroom to come alive in, but now I've got the whole sort of house where I can film or be free, and it's not just about laying in bed drawing. Now I've got the sort of freedom to do it wherever, and I've gained so much confidence since living on my own. I've started to do so much that I never really felt safe to do before. I'd almost built things up as more scary in my mind than they actually are. I've never felt sort of safe to go out into the world by myself as a trans woman before, but now I can do things like go to the gym instead of exercising at home and walk to the supermarket, something as simple as that used to feel like such a point that I'd never reach. Now I'm able to do that, and it constantly amazed myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there something that has shifted for you? At what point did that become something that you were then confident with?
I think just sort of realizing that everyone's their own worst critic, and that, I think I was hyper-focused on the idea that everyone was honed in on me and what I was doing, but just getting to move through the world as myself and sort of notice that everyone's focusing on themselves. Maybe it's a part of I don't know, growing up, getting smarter or something, but yeah, just the realization that I not only can do those things, but I deserve to do those things. Yeah.
Love that. It's a funny thing, isn't it, that we're so focused on everybody's attention being on us.
Yeah.
Yet actually, everyone's just really just doing their own thing, right?
I have a couple of things on that actually. Sammy, for you, it sounded like getting the freedom to be able to do your own thing in your own space was really, really helpful. For me, I had a very similar experience in that when I was living with my parents, I always shared a bedroom. So I couldn't explore gender or anything like that because I just never had the space to be able to do that. And I got to university, and was able to start wearing dresses and stuff like that in my own room because the door was locked and you couldn't get in. But that gave me the freedom to be able to explore my gender a little bit more. But as it turns out, much later, I found that that was a common story because I lived on campus. I lived in the halls of res, and I found out much later after I'd moved off that I wasn't the only person doing that. That there was another friend of mine that was also at the same time exploring their gender in their room. And it was just like, I finally get the freedom to be myself. Zara, you made a comment before that I wanted to expand on as well. But I can't remember what it was.
That's right. It might come back, but what I wanted to add to was what you'd mentioned there about, there's other people that are also feeling the same way. And I guess that brings us a little bit around this community strength and where, when we do come together with community, we're hearing other people that have had similar experiences. And so for me, when, I was going through a lot on my own, and then I met other trans folks and recognized that, there's other people that are actually feeling this way. And so I felt less alone, but also I felt more empowered because other people were at all different stages. And so, not only could we share those experiences, but we could empower each other to grow and to learn more and to, not have to try everything the hard way. Some people have already done it. Yeah. Is there anything, have you got anything that you want to add to around community strength? Have you found that there's been times where that has really helped you out?
Yeah, honestly, I remember the first note that I was going to talk about, but then it flew and I'm like, okay, what can I pull out of my brain first? Anyway, back to on track. Community-wise and Trans Joy Connect for me, in the way of like good old COVID, I wasn't in schooling at the time. I had free access to the internet. I was going crazy on it, right? I went down the rabbit hole of exploring like every gender, every label, and now I just have that knowledge in my head. And
what
that connects.
Experience.
That connects to community for me because of like a volunteer role I have, where it's talking or just not talking, but like looking after a young group of queers from where I'm from, and a lot of them come to me with like, I feel this way, what does this mean? And I'm like, I know exactly how you're feeling now. So it really helps, just like, even though some of them are like obscure or frowned upon, example like neopronouns, a lot of people are still struggling to get with. I'm a neopronoun user, so when somebody's like, I don't connect with the society pronouns, what is there? And I'm like, oh. It's always fun to just have like a young queer approach me as somebody who's like was a young queer and just have this absurd amount of knowledge.
And there's so much value in that exploration. I hear that people put this negative lens on this idea of transition or detransition that we hear about. And I think there is so much value in people who are free to explore gender and explore transition in different ways, particularly with social transition, because you can change your name and you can have people try out different pronouns and things with you and see if that feels comfortable for you. Yeah. And when you feel comfortable with how people are responding to you, then you go, oh, okay, there's something all lining up here now.
Yep.
And if we don't allow people to explore, then they're just going to sit in discomfort. Yeah. Has there been times where you've been exploring, Kay? How did you get to where you
also are? COVID. I think COVID was a great period of time where I do not need to answer to anyone. I can cut my hair however I like, and I don't have to see the world for months on end. So I was just telling for the longest time, I kept saying that, I'm a woman. I'm just masculine. You can be masculine and a woman. And I was like, that's fine. And then during COVID, I bought my first binder. And I wore it and it was like, okay, I like this a little too much. And
I know what this means.
let's try to maybe push it another year or so. But I was also asking my roommates at the time to, okay, maybe can we try using they, them pronouns? And I think I didn't feel like kind of a crippling gender dysphoria. I think a lot of representation of transness is also this really crippling dysphoria. And I didn't have that. So I feel like, am I trans enough? Is this like, should I really use this label? I don't want to be taking space that isn't supposed to be for me. But I think, so COVID was definitely a time where I can just try out anything and there's no pressure to come out. There's no pressure to like, okay, this is how I identify now. But yeah. So that period of time really allowed me to experiment, and it just stuck with me for after COVID as well. And then I slowly tried to tell people. And I think it's also with the power of community, meeting other people who are using all sorts of pronouns and present themselves in all sorts of ways, allowed me to be like, okay, I am trans enough. I'm allowed to use they, them. I'm allowed to identify as non-binary. I don't need to, there's no checklist that you have to fulfill. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my experience.
That's beautiful. One of the first things that I did when I came out as trans was I connected with Thorn Harbour, and they linked me in to this trans camp. It was a whole bunch of trans folks, trans and gender diverse folks going on this camp. I think it was at Halls Gap. And it was my first experience of meeting other trans folks.
That sounds amazing.
And there was this whole body of them at all different ages and all different stages. And that am I trans enough kind of sentiment, it really opened my eyes to recognize that there's so many different ways to be trans and so many different opportunities to explore what gender is. And it was just so freeing for me. And it really did make a big difference to where I went next with, my freedom. Sammy?
Yeah, I think that community is actually more powerful than a lot of people realize. Like, I transitioned at 15, but I didn't meet my first trans person until I was about 24, other than myself.
Wow. Okay.
And so I lived a very isolated experience and didn't feel that I could connect with anyone else around me on a very deep level. And I think it impacted a lot of my relationships during that time because I don't know, I felt other. And then once I sort of found my people and understood that I wasn't alone in this life, like I stopped viewing myself as not a part of this world, basically. And it's allowed me to connect with trans people and people who aren't even better, just because I know that I'm not alone. It's allowed everything in my life to flourish.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. There's definitely a sentiment of when you do feel like the other and you do feel lonely, but then when you connect with the broader people in general and your own people as well, there's this sense of, and I hear it quite a lot, that you not only understand yourself more and connect to other people more, but you understand people more broadly as well. You can understand the diversity of humans. And I think that was really a great thing that I took away from, or that I'm still taking away from my trans experience is that connection to other people, no matter who they are. Yeah.
I think allowing yourself to be yourself has done wonders for me in making friends as well, because I feel like it's a great way to filter out people. And it's just like, okay, I'm just going to be exactly who I am. And it's a lot easier to find your people as well. And you can make genuine connections with people.
It's really interesting, actually, because when I transitioned, we're talking only 2019, right? It was a case of I always felt different, but I never had the language to go with it. Like I never had the term transgender. I didn't know what that meant. And it took me until like the very, very start of 2019 when I'd already started seeing a psychologist. I was basically like, I don't know what's going on. I want to explore my gender. I need a therapist. Got referred to someone that couldn't really help, but we'll ignore that point for now. It turns out that I knew somebody back at uni who had transitioned later, and I basically got the chance to sit down with them, and then they were like, oh, your story really aligns with what my story is. Actually, there's a trans support group. Would you like to come along? And the very first time I went along to that was on my birthday. And that was really, really helpful. But it was like, at the time, we're talking about Ballarat. We don't know in 2019 how do you transition? Who do you see? Mm-hmm. You can't just go to a GP and go, hey, can you refer me to someone that actually knows something, because they'll refer you to someone that doesn't, because they don't know. Mm-hmm. But so if you can find community, you can find the services that can help you. At the time, there was maybe one psychologist in the entire city that actually knew about trans issues. Okay, cool. I now know where I need to go. But I wouldn't have found that if it wasn't for the local community that could direct you to the services. Because for a lot of folks, those services don't exist in regional towns. Mm. You have to go off to Melbourne, for example, and that can be a really extensive journey. But having the services locally was really, really helpful, but I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for the local community to be able to direct me in that path. It's actually why I started the service that I work on, which is trans.au, being a directory service, because it needs to be easier to find doctors and services that can help you with your transition.
Absolutely. Such a beautiful resource, and certainly something that I would have loved to have benefited from when I first started exploring. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add in regard to joy and the experience that, being trans and the light that it's brought to your life?
I remembered the comment that was in response to you, Zara, from earlier, which was in response to my surgery. It was like, before surgery, it was very concerning for me going out into places like to work out and stuff like that, because if I wanted to go to the gym, feminine gym wear is pretty form-fitting. Yeah. And when you've got a bulge, it is very concerning. And I was terrified. Like, I was still going with friends, but they weren't trans friends. Mm. And I was just like, I feel so bad about this. And then it was being able to put on like leggings and stuff like that after surgery that was just like, oh, I don't have to worry anymore. I can be free to be myself, and I don't have to have that worry at all.
That's really interesting. I don't have to worry you anymore. This is something that I share as well, because my interests before I started transitioning was ballroom dancing. And so I did a lot of dancing. But when I transitioned, it became more difficult from knowing if I was safe in that space. But also internally, I'm thinking, as a trans woman in that space, I'm, I guess, making other men dance with me. And in my mind, in those early days, now I think, it doesn't matter, I'm a woman, you dance with me. But in that time where I was self-doubting what my responsibilities were as a trans woman, like we've got so much more to think about and more burden on life, right? According to ourselves. I was thinking, I can't do that to people. I can't make men dance with me. That's unfair. So instead, and I wanted to get fit and go to the gym, but I didn't feel comfortable there. So a friend actually recommended that I do pole dancing because then I could still dance and the pole didn't care.
Yeah.
And I loved it and it was so good and I got really fit and strong. Oh my God, pole dancing works out different muscles that you've never used before. But one of the things, again, the discomfort that I had within myself was we learn these routines and then we have this day where everyone comes together and they watch all the different groups that have learnt routines and dance. And I remember when it came time for me to do that, I was watching around the room and everyone's watching the girls up there on the poles, and I was paying particular attention to some of the boys in the room who were quite interested in what was happening and they're supporting all the girls up on the poles. And then when it came my turn, I noticed an awkwardness in the room where they didn't know where to look because this was pre-surgery and it was a little awkward for me, but it really highlighted the discomfort that people have around bodies and body shapes and what we're allowed to wear and what we're not allowed to wear according to shape. And I just, it's since then I've really thought and worked on for myself what these values are around, the limitations that we hold around what we can expose ourselves to. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that correctly.
I mean, wear whatever makes you comfy.
Yeah. But that sense of
you're always so hyper vigilant about what what you think other people will think about you.
Yeah.
And it's often
our responsibility to make sure that they're comfortable. And I think as trans people, we're often thinking about how we are impacting on other people, yet actually we should just be able to be ourselves, because everyone is doing that if they're not trans. So, did you want to add to that?
I'm just over here because I'm laughing because I learned that from an early age because of my upbringing that I just be yourself, just do it. So now so many people ask me, how do you go out like that? How do you look like? What do you do? It's just man, I had a whole different experience than you. That's how.
It's a beautiful power to have.
Yeah, it's great. But so many people who are genuinely seeking guidance come to me, and I'm like, I have nothing better to tell you than just block out all of the rules society has taught you. It is so fundamentally broken and colonized that it's just just step away from it as soon as you can.
That's such a wonderful thing that you were brought up that way. What about your upbringing that allows you to have that?
My spite.
Because a lot of
I was raised in a pretty strict household that wasn't accepting, and I just kind of said no.
Okay, that's awesome.
Oh, it was my brother because he was the other queer of the three of us, and he was rebellious teenage, blah blah blah, and then I just kind of was like, what is he doing? And then I just kind of followed in his footsteps until he left home, and then I left home the exact same way. So it's nice. We don't talk or anything, but it's nice to know that I had somebody in my inner circle, family circle, to kind of wake me up to see that what was pushed on me as a child is not what I have to grow into.
Yeah.
I can change it whenever I want. It all matters on the comfortability and who you have to look up to as a child.
Yeah.
And I had my brother, and he was my mum calls him the 6-foot Hell's Angel. Oh, wow. There we go, yeah. 6-foot motorbiker Hell's Angel.
That paints a picture.
Yep.
Nice. Beautiful. Well, thank you all for coming on and kicking off our series 2. That's episode 1. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to sharing some more in episode 2. Oxbridge.